Everyone, mark your calendars. The BDO retreat is back for its 5th and final year, and we're taking you to sunny Key Largo, Florida on January 16th and 17th. This is not some typical stuffy conference. I'm talking real strategy, real takeaways, and real conversation and growth with the best in the biz. We're talking game-changing workshops, killer conversations over dinner, and sunsets that'll make you even forget you're on a work trip. Spots are limited. Tap the link in the show notes to register now.
Warning: the views and opinions expressed in this program are our own and/or those of our guests. They do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of our employers. Viewers' discretion is advised.
And they came back and they did not accept a single addback. And the seller was so pissed. The LOI expired and they jumped LOIs and took a different deal. They were so mad because it was 4 weeks of just nitpicking.
You know, work closely with your broker, with the business broker.
Yeah.
I mean, that's your ally. That's your greatest ally on every transaction.
I know what the bank needs, so I'm not going to send him, as my 13-year-old would say, something that's skibbity. Right? Like, you're not going to send
Skibbity.
Skibbity,
That's a new
Ohio.
word. Writing it down, Googling it tonight.
Apparently it made it into
if
the
you've got a
dictionary.
middle schooler, you know what skibbity means.
I find it's always better when there's a woman with fun stories, because like all the guys have fun stories because they're allowed to get away with murder. But then when a woman comes in, and she's got some sass and some spice and some fun crap that happened, you're like, okay, this is even better. So
Emily,
I'm
I have
excited.
less sass than I used to. I'm definitely like less sass, but like still like some sass.
Where did your sass start to peak off where you were like, I'm good on the sass?
I would say last
Was
year.
it this job? It was last year?
Is it usually the older? I would like to say the older your daughters get, the less sass that you get, because they have a tendency just to take the sass away.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the BDO Show, a podcast for passionate BDOs wanting to level up their game with advice and stories from battle-tested BDOs. I'm your host, Emily Detor, and I'm here with my fellow co-host, Ryan Kroge. At the beginning of each episode, we're always going to remind you to like, subscribe, and send your topics and suggestions to the BDO Show at artofsba.com. And do not forget to check out our whole family of shows, SBA Today, which airs live every week on LinkedIn, as well as our Art of SBA Lending podcast. BDOs. Have you ever had a borrower bring in like a brother-in-law to do their life insurance? Doesn't end well, does it? We've all been there. When you require life insurance on your SBA loan, it's critical that you bring in a company that specializes in getting these policies in place for the SBA loans. The last thing you want is for life insurance to be the holdup. We all know that's a rookie mistake. SBA Protection Quick Close Life Insurance is the fastest, easiest way to secure the insurance protection that your borrower needs for their SBA loan. Their process is simple, hassle-free, and only takes a few minutes of your borrower's time. No lengthy paperwork, no complicated forms. They even have programs that don't require labs or doctor records for approval. And best of all, you will have the collateral assignment back in less than 24 hours. It's a no-brainer. Go to sbaprotection.com for more information or email Adam Bergen at adam@sbaprotection.com. All right, so let's go ahead and start our episode. Today we have Jackie Hirsch, who is a business broker and a good friend and colleague of Ryan Kroge's. So why don't you go ahead and intro yourself, please?
Thank you so much, Emily and Ryan, for having me on the show. I'm so excited to be here. So I started Crown Atlantic in 2004. I had been selling companies since 1998. So really, it's mostly what I've done. I've also owned and operated a couple other companies in between, one I closed, one I sold. And then I also buy and invest in pieces of companies. I'm a Minds Capital investor and, some other funds in the SMB space. I've done probably, well over 100 SBA deals by now over the years. Probably the first one was in 2000. So that was my first SBA deal, so a while back. And I've sold over 400 companies. So I've done a bunch of deals with Ryan, so we have lots to talk about.
And she is the broker extraordinaire down in Florida as well. She's like one of the top, very well-known brokers down in Florida. So if you need a business sold, or you need to find one down in the southeast, you got to call Jackie.
Thank you.
Jackie's our girl. Is it just 7A loans you've done since?
No, I mean, there's been 504, right, when there's property, but mostly 7A. I mean, mostly the 7A straight up program, like for business acquisition, cash flow valuations, essentially. Like that's traditionally what we've done. Ryan and I, our first deal that we did together was for, I think, was it 5.3 million? something like
I
that.
think the purchase price was about $5.4 million.
Yeah.
And she ended up coming back and getting a little bit more money for
Yeah.
renovations too, after she paid it down a whole bunch.
Yeah.
But that whole deal that Jackie had, I'll let her tell the story. That was how she and I were introduced about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I ended up with using a Detroit broker, because
Right.
all of the other brokers in your whole company, all of the other lenders are like, hey, Jackie, why don't you do a deal with us? I'm like, I work with Ryan Kroge. Well, how'd you get hooked up with him? I'm like, listen, Ryan has come through for me, like, more than you know. Like, he's done some big stuff. He's done some really small stuff. Like, he's never let me down. And then it's hard for them to break in, but they're all really nice to me.
How did you guys meet?
There was a buyer who was from Detroit, and somehow he got hooked up with Ryan because Ryan was from Detroit also. And he was in Florida, and it was a Florida business, and he wanted to buy this business. And so I can't even say we even started off great. Like, it was during COVID. It wasn't a great time. Like, things were just rough on a lot of levels. And this buyer he expected me to spend an hour every day with him debriefing on his deal. Now I run other deals, right? And I know Ryan runs other deals, but this guy was super
Needy
demanding.
borrower.
He wanted multiple calls a day. He wanted me to prepare charts. And I don't.
Wasn't he
work
making
for you
changes
full-time.
to the purchase agreement like twice weekly?
Yeah.
Like, constantly redlining everything for like a month.
But ultimately, the seller had caught him in a few lies, we'll say. Then I think the biggest part where they're like, okay, I'm done. And we were literally a week and a half away from closing.
Yes.
Ryan remembers that well, because I had to call
were
him
about a
and
week
tell
and a
him-
half from closing. We had
Yes.
everything done. Business valuation was good. All of our
Yeah.
due diligence was good. Borrower had a lot of challenges on our end, but we ended up getting through it and making it happen.
Everything.
And we were like right there, and something between the seller and the buyer just weren't jiving. And I think the seller just had enough of it. They were just like,
I'll tell you what that is.
Yeah.
The buyer had put a clause in the seller's employment agreement that was a non-disparagement clause, which is not an abnormal clause to have a non-disparagement, like no trash talking. That's what that clause should be, no trash talking. So this clause said it would be $1 million per offense.
What the heck?
And I'm like, I don't even know if Brad Pitt does that. So it was egregious. And I think that's where the seller, like, we had caught him in a number of things, and everybody was so worn out. This guy was exhausting. That we did this kind of intervention where I did a call and I said the deal's over because the LOI had expired. The LOI was for 90 days and it was 100 days. And literally we were going to close the following week. Everything was ready. And then we put a kibosh on it, and that guy went crazy.
And it was a great deal. It was an 8-location retail business that's been a staple in the Florida market for years. Cash flowed very well, very well run. And it was just, it had a wholesale retail operation to it. It was just great. And our buyer was okay. He wasn't the best, but we were able to make it fit. And he was a guy that I knew up here in Michigan. And let's face it, when you're done with Michigan, where do you go? You go to Florida. So, I haven't left yet, but I'm already dressing like I'm down there. And so, once that fell apart, I don't even think it was a month later, Jackie called me and was like, I got another buyer, but they're hot to try. I got a buyer. If I give her to you now, how quickly can you close? Can you do this in 30 days?
I didn't say 30 days. That's an unreasonable ask. But I said how quickly. I did ask how quickly.
How quickly. And I said quick, because we had all the due diligence. Our underwriter liked the deal. Our underwriter liked the business. We just needed someone who fit into this peg. And we did. We found, actually, this was a significantly better buyer than our last one. She had retail operation, multi-location experience. She was just going from one industry to the next. And we got it done. How quickly did we get that done, Jackie?
I think it was like 55 days. It was like 55
it was definitely
days.
under 60. We cranked it out, and she's been phenomenal. She's been operating the business ever since.
Grown it,
and just
like incredible.
Grown it, taking it to the next level. She paid down her SBA loan tremendously, like a bunch within the first couple of years, because she was up against the $5 million limit, came back, took it back up to the $5 million limit because she wanted to do a whole bunch of renovations, and then even catapulted revenues even more. So she's a great operator. It was a perfect transaction, but that's essentially how Jackie and I met, working on that deal and getting through it and getting it done. And ever since, I've worked with Jackie and her brother Lee at Crown Atlantic, and it's been great. We've got a deal right now. I'm working with Jackie's brother Lee on. It's another company down in the Florida market, and this is something. If I could give any advice to sellers, any advice at all, when you are selling your business, make sure you have your financial house in order and you're watching everything. You're watching everything like a hawk. And if you've got your tax returns put together, you're dealing with a professional like Jackie and her brother Lee, and they're saying everything looks good. We can sell it for X. They got a purchase agreement for X. Everything's looking great. Those interim financials from your last tax returns are going to be key, because we got those interim financial statements a week ago and it was not looking good. They were down a lot. I won't say a lot, but they were down enough to be under break even on our debt service. And so I called up the borrower and I called up Lee, and I'm like, hey man, what's going on? This isn't looking good, because they basically blanked July. It was either July or June. They just blanked for whatever reason. There was nothing reported there. I'm like, something's off on this. And the seller, I almost said his name. The seller calls me. He goes, I've got $200,000 worth of work for that month. It's going to look awesome. It's probably having one of my best years ever. I'm like, something's going on with your accounting. Something's going on with your bookkeeping that's not making sense at all. I'm like, please get with your CPA. This went on for about 3 days. And I finally called him and I texted Lee and I said, please have him get with his CPA and figure out what's going on with these numbers. And he did. He finally did. And the CPA said, oh, well, here's the problem. See, the way he works his business so that he can get paid, he's a contractor. So, and he deals with a lot of residential stuff. The best way for him to get paid is through an app where he can immediately invoice and bill individuals through this app. Now, the problem is this app takes a manual input to have it sync with his QuickBooks, and he just doesn't do that very frequently. So the CPA went in, had to extrapolate all the data from his app, put it into QuickBooks, update all the numbers, and send them to me Monday. And I'm like, oh, this is phenomenal. It looks so much better. And he's right. He's having a banner year. But it was one of those things that as a lender, it gave me a heart attack. As the buyer, gave him a heart attack. And even Lee was like, I don't know what the heck this guy's doing. I mean, everything was going great. He says he's busier than he's ever been. What's going on? But it was a crisis averted. You know, he took some good advice from Lee and myself, and we're closing next week. You know, we were supposed to close this Friday, but because of the delay, we're now closing next Tuesday or Wednesday because of the holiday. But done.
Yay.
But that goes towards if any BDOs want a hint from that, it's number one, pay attention to the financials, review them before you just kick them off. But number two, you know, work closely with your broker, with the business broker. Yeah. I mean, that's your ally. That's your greatest ally on every transaction. You know, Lee was the first person I called when I saw the financials. I'm like, buddy, what's going on? And he helped meet with the seller with me, and then I worked with the borrower. Everyone worked together. There was a little bit of panic, but at the end, everything's going to work out fine.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask, because you guys seem to have like really honest, awesome, and open communication between the two of you. So I'm like curious how you knew that that was going to be a good fit. Was it these crazy deals that sort of just like threw you two together and you were just like, this is going to be a great fit for us? And then also, does some deal prep, like good deal prep, go behind this, you know, making sure that you get everything to Ryan before he has to start begging you for documents? It's almost like you know exactly what he needs because the communication was there prior with some pretty hefty deals that were like, all right, we're working together now.
You know, it's interesting, Emily. You know, I didn't know how it would work with Ryan, but we started working together on that deal. And, you know, I'm really transparent and really upfront. I run a great data room. I have a ton of information. I'm super prepared. When you send a closing checklist, I begin filling it. I mean, we're on top of it. Like, that's how we've done so many deals. Like, we do not mess around. And Ryan knows that. Like, when I call, Ryan's like, hello, Jackie, how are you? Like, I mean, he knows I do not mess around, and I appreciate that. Yeah. And so when I work with lenders, because I can't control always who I work with, right? I show up and try to do the absolute best I can on my end with what I know. And I hear from some of these lenders that like, sometimes the broker just makes an introduction and then they show up at the closing table and that's it. And that's not me. Like I am in the deal. Like I roll up my sleeves and I'm in the deal and I'm like stressed out if the buyer or the seller is stressed out. And, I'm panicking if they're panicking. Like we are in it. And I assist with certain tasks that I hear other brokers don't, like maybe working with the landlord. Like there's another deal that Ryan and I are working on right now, and the landlord is in New York. So
always fun.
Yes. So
big time landlord.
Oh yeah. Big, huge landlord. So
Right.
Hey guys, we have a special announcement for anybody involved in M&A transactions. Our partner, Peak Business Valuation, have put together a resource just for BDO Show listeners, and they're giving it away for free. It lists out the rule of thumb formulas, or as Kroge would like to say, the down and dirty, for some of the most common industries that SBA lenders finance. I promise you it's going to come in handy. Kroge's literally still using the one he got from Nagel in 2002. By the way, if you're not thinking about evaluation at the pre-screen phase, you are missing the boat. A lot of BDOs tend to focus on the debt service coverage and they're missing the valuation completely. That's a rookie move and it will become a problem. As a consultative BDO, you should have a sense of whether the business is going to value out. And Peak's handy dandy rule of thumb is here to help. Go to peakbizval.com/BDO show to get yours today.
The buyer and seller are like, Jackie, we don't know what to do. Like there's a commercial broker and then there's a broker for the landlord. And those two guys have been communicating. And basically I bypassed them and called the attorney in New York. Well, it did go well if you want to say that I got a response, because this guy called me up screaming that he's in New York. And I told him, what I think is so funny is that when people from New York call somebody in Florida, they feel the need to tell them that they're in New York because we know, right? Like, I know you're in New York by the way you're talking to me like a moron. And just because I'm from Florida doesn't mean I'm a moron, but I appreciate the sentiment, right? And so I have to deal with this. And the seller was very upset that this guy
I'm in New York. Did you know that?
Well, Emily,
I didn't say it. I didn't even say it.
Anyway,
that's awesome.
But this guy like calls and he's like ripping me a new one. So I'm just trying to like maintain composure. And I said, listen, I really appreciate this call. And I'm so sorry that I did not follow protocol. I am not a commercial broker and I just handle the business transaction and my buyer and seller are panicking. We know that this is a small deal to you guys, but this is a big deal to them. So anything I can do to assist, and maybe this wasn't the right way to just call and ask for help, but that's where we're at. So please let me know what I can do and how I can best support you and get you what you need or answer any questions. And then this guy like completely softened because I did not meet him at his same like yelling level. I think he was confused as to what to do.
You don't match energy when it's hostile like that.
Definitely not match energy.
Yeah. So then like it all kind of went well. And then I sent him a thank you note. Right. And the seller's like, you sent him a thank you note? I was like, yes, I very much appreciated him calling me. Like he thinks I'm a moron and he still called me and he didn't have to. And I really appreciate it because we got it done. Right. So like, that's a win for us. And, yes, he tried to rip me a new one, but I did not allow it and it went well. And that's just what you have to do sometimes. You just have to like show up and meet them where they're at. And I get it. This guy is running like billion-dollar properties. No joke. Multiple billion-dollar properties, and some lady in Florida is calling him, right? So these are some of the things that I do in my deals to support not just the lenders, but all the other things. There was another deal that Ryan and I worked on. It was the longest deal I had ever had pending. It was a year and a half.
Oh my goodness. It
Okay,
was probably
Ryan
the
and I have
smallest
tried
too.
it was super small.
Probably the smallest deal as well.
I won't say what it is, but like it was super meaningful to the seller and the buyer.
Yeah.
But we had a landlord that was perpetually on a yacht and they didn't deal with the landlord directly. The people next door in this building dealt with the landlord directly and had been friends with the landlord for 45 years. So I didn't even have any direct access to the landlord and neither did they. So finally I get a lease. I've been waiting this is like 14 months in, I get a lease. Okay. And the bank's attorney that they were using at the time did not like something on the lease and wanted it changed. So I called the bank's attorney. I was like, listen, we really can't change this. Like, this is what it is. And can we just make it work? Because this is how it works. And I don't have any direct connection. And it took me 14 months to get this lease. Like, and I've worked really hard consistently to get this lease. Nope. Wouldn't call me back. Wouldn't respond. Demanded change. So then we got to change. So then now all of a sudden the lease went from 11 years to 9 years. So then I'm calling the bank and asking the bank, can you do a 9-year loan instead of an 11-year loan? Because I can't get it back to 11 years. And then I did a post on X, and the partner in the law firm realized I was telling a story about their firm and called me on my cell phone and asked what happened. And I shared what happened and how bad it was.
Yeah.
And then the partner said, why didn't you call me? I'm like, I shouldn't have to call you. This is like such a minor issue. And by the way, I have like 20 million in other deals that I'm working on. Like, I shouldn't be having to call you like for some piddly thing. I was just trying to deal with it.
Right.
And, but then there's this post on X about one of the attorneys at the firm.
I was wondering why, because I was pushing back on that whole 9-year thing. Cause I'm like, it's so insignificant considering the grand scheme of things with everything else going on in this deal. Why are we harping on that? Because we can get exceptions on it before.
Yeah.
And she just wasn't budging. But it's funny because I'll never forget where I was. Emily, we've been working on this for over a year. It was going on like 14, 15 months. And I was picking up my daughter from school and I'm pulling out of the parking lot and I got the call that from the attorney, from the partner that you were talking about that called you, must have immediately called me and said, hey, we got this whole 9-year thing figured out. We're going to recommend you guys. It'll be a credit decision, but we'll back you up on it. It's like, great, shoot me an email to that effect and I'll pass it on to our credit manager. And I did, and it was done. We closed like within another week. It was great because it took us a year with this whole lease. It had issues with improvements and everything else. It was a nightmare. And then what was nice is, shortly after we closed, they sent us a nice, cute little video thanking us.
It was nice.
So that was cute.
So it was, it's actually the city that it's in. It's in a small city in Florida. And the city does not really like commercial property of any kind. But this business had been there for over 20 years and the business next door had been there for 45 years. And so the city now all of a sudden was demanding that they have proper zoning. I'm like, this has been there the whole time. Like, what do you mean? And it's like low impact. It's not like any construction or machinery or anything like that. And so it was just insane, like what they were trying to do. I threatened to call the news and they said, if you threaten to call the news, if you call the news, we will bury you for years.
Jeez. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I would have called the news.
And they weren't from New York, right? That was in Florida, right? Because that sounded like a very Florida. New York thing to say.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, they're in Florida.
Goodness. Jeez.
I wanted to ask, because I wanted to back up a little bit. You mentioned data room, and I know this is something that we were planning on chatting about anyways. Is I know a lot of people hear the term data. They hear the term data room, but maybe not everybody fully understands like how powerful it can be. I kind of want you to walk us through what your data room looks like, what goes into it, why it makes such a big difference for lenders like Ryan.
When I work with Ryan, I try and set him up for success, right? Because I need him as a partner on the team. It's almost like when you're a business broker, you're like a party planner, but nobody's having as much fun as like a normal party. But like you're like putting everything together, and everybody's got to work as a team. Analogy. And I try and make it. You try and lighten the load a little bit, and have some levity. When I run a data room, first of all, you have it laid out like with financials and tax returns and P&Ls. You
is it
have
a platform
the items,
or is it a bunch of
it's
folders?
A
platform that you use? Okay.
It's a platform. You can use a Dropbox, right? You could use a Dropbox or Box. You could use a ShareFile. It just needs to be organized. It needs to be really organized and it needs to be clear, right? So you're looking for clarity, properly labeled files, properly labeled folders. The bank can't have a P&L that says XYZ 99999, just in the folder. And then they have to click on each one. It's got to be labeled, right? So multiple people work on this at the bank. Then sometimes the valuation team works on it. If they have a third-party valuation, then sometimes the bank's attorney looks at certain things. So it's got to be clear that anybody who walks into the data room that's led in by me, they can see what they need. And if they can't, they can easily ask. Then I have a due diligence folder. And sometimes I run things differently, like in the folder, I have lists. I have a Q&A that populates. so that, you can have a revolving Q&A and that's all in one place. So you might have like 50 emails that go back and forth with questions. I'll copy and paste that onto a Q&A.
And it's so well organized too. It's organized with folders and subfolders, and everything, like Jackie said, is labeled correctly. And it's all up to date. We get updated financial information. I get 2 emails. I get an email from Jackie with the updated financial information. Then I get a notification saying that it's been uploaded to the data room, because she gives me access to it. She gives my assistant access to it. She gives my closer access to it. And sometimes, in some cases, when we've had pretty complicated files, I've asked for my underwriter to have access to it so he can go in and read everything. And it's phenomenal. And one of Jackie's complaints with working with us at First Internet Bank was that we didn't have an easy way to get documentation to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, and I'm saying it for the first time on this podcast, that we've made a significant investment, and I mean a significant investment, in a platform. It's called Parlay, and it utilizes AI, and it's very user-friendly, that you can upload information to this platform, and not only will it label it correctly for you, it'll read the documentation, what's in it, and help us analyze it as well. And I'm not a technology guy, but this is like really impressive, this whole entire platform. We just started rolling it out, and we've just started using it with all of our customers. And matter of fact, one of my buddies, Alan, who's more tech savvy than I am, I asked him to play with it, use it a bunch of times, and then tell me the good, the bad, and ugly before I start using it. Because I'm the type of guy, I'll start using technology, and if I don't use it right, I will completely ruin it for myself from ever using it again.
No,
so Alan used it. He used it the right way. He called and did a whole Zoom call with me on how he uses it. Now I use it all the time. It's phenomenal. Customers love it. They log in, they answer a short few questions. It gives them boxes to upload information. It uploads it. And then what I see is it renames it to what it actually is. And then it takes information out of it and it analyzes it. It is really cool. And it puts together
super quick too.
Very quick, like almost immediately. It's going to revolutionize the game. And First Internet Bank has this technology, guys. I'm telling you. We're on the cutting edge. Our middle name's not internet for no reason. All right.
That's what Jackie wants to hear.
That's right.
We should get a live.
I knew that would make her
demo.
happy. You should do a live demo.
The more organized, the better.
Yes. So once I'm starting to roll this out on all new applications. So the next application we get, we'll get you set up in the data room and your customers, and it's really cool to use.
Okay.
It's just like, because Jackie gave me a hard time one time because she did work with the bank who had a platform that was really easy to use, and she explained it to me. And I think ours is going to be easier and even better.
Have you found yourself double checking it to be like, there's no way that this didn't miss something?
No, I'm not like tech savvy enough to do that. I'm just not.
I'll ask somebody else
with tech for that. Yeah, it tells me what it is. I open it and I go, yeah, that's what it is. Then it gives me an analysis. So-and-so is requesting $2 million to acquire this, that, and the other, and everything else. And it gives a whole entire narrative. I'm like, oh, wow, they got this after just a bunch of documents. And then it goes, and so-and-so's background, because we have them upload a resume, right? So they upload a resume, and then it says, so-and-so's background is this, that, and the other. And it works well for this industry because this, that, and everything else. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is kind of scary how well it puts that analysis together.
Yeah, the platform that I worked on was a couple years ago, and it really, they allowed me in, which they said they don't usually do. And I had every document in there in a day and a half. Everything.
It's so cool. Yeah. And so we, right now it's all borrower specific, but we are working on a broker platform as well. Guys like me, Jared, Alan, all people that Jackie, have all been, pounding our fist at some of the most sophisticated people that we speak with on a transaction are the brokers. They have everything at their fingertips. So give them a broker platform and access to upload information. So they're putting that together as we speak.
Amazing.
That would be would be ideal, especially because
it's a game changer.
Yeah, it would also take a lot of that pressure off the borrower who may not know what they need, but the broker's like, I know exactly what you need. Another thing we wanted to talk about quickly, Kroge, you kind of brought this up, was how addbacks can sometimes be a sticking point between brokers and lenders if they're not well explained, and I was curious how you guys approach putting together a clear list of ad backs so there's no confusion or pushback later in the underwriting process.
Yeah. So Emily, I don't like to do unrealistic ad backs, right? I'm not adding back the seller's cell phone because, like, in
Braces.
2025, I don't think that that needs to be added back. If you have the seller's wife's, or the seller's, spouse, or, a kid here or there, but if they have like their whole family, like more than 5 people on it that are not involved in the business, sometimes I'll add back a little bit. So it's got to be really clear. And I tell the sellers that your ad backs have to be crystal clear what that is, right? So there's a deal that Ryan and I were working on, and there were some Amazon purchases, but they had it all in one file, and it was like $120,000 like in one file. And
Imagine those boxes.
and but and so it was clear. It doesn't mean that the bank's going to accept it, but at least we can identify it. And so
Right.
that's what's important. Can you identify it for the bank? Now, there was another deal that I worked on with another bank, and they had us go through this whole add-back verification process. And they were looking to verify this 150,000-ish in add-backs or so. That was all like really clearly labeled and had QuickBooks documentation to back it up. And we got them general ledgers for, the past 3 years plus the year to date general ledger. We had everything to them, and they came back and they did not accept a single ad back. And the seller was so pissed that they took a different deal. The LOI expired and they jumped LOIs and took a different deal. They were so mad because it was 4 weeks of just nitpicking them to pieces, and didn't like that. So pretty interesting.
Yeah, and Jackie will usually, before she takes a deal to market, she'll bring it to me and have me preview it. Say, what do you as the lender see on this transaction, and what can you finance? This is what we're looking at. We're looking at 2.5 or $3 million, and these are the assets. What do you think? Can you finance it? And I'll give her my 2 cents, and if I really like it, I'll put together a pre-qualification letter for her to put on her listing as well. And so that gives me a heads up on what transactions she has out there, and also has a file ready to go on it too. So when we do get a borrower ready with an LOI, we're already ahead of the game.
Well, I send him a full SIM, tax returns, year-to-date P&L, current balance sheet. I mean, ready. Like, my deals are ready. Like, Ryan rarely says no because my stuff is good. I don't go to market with stuff that's not going to be good. Right. And I know what the bank needs, so I'm not going to send him, as my 13-year-old would say, something that's skibbity, right? Like, you're not going to send
skibbity.
Skibbity,
that's a new word. Writing it down, Googling it tonight.
Apparently, it made it into
if
the
you've got a
dictionary.
middle schooler, you know what skibbity means.
I don't. I have a 5-year-old dog.
I don't like my numbers to be sus. I always put the fries in the bag. So,
nice.
This is like,
this is great.
So,
Sus.
that's, you have to like make sure that you're prepared. And I like to be prepared when I talk to a lender. And then the other thing is, sometimes I get a buyer, and often like they have their own lender that they've been working with. And so I send it to them, and like, boom, 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 here's all my stuff here, and I'm ready. And they know I'm not messing around, and they are worried I will take this somewhere else. So they are like clamoring to make sure that they get me what I want. Because if I call my buyer and I'm like, these guys are not ready, we can't work with them because they don't know what they're doing. They couldn't answer any of my questions. Like, do you underwrite your own deals? What's your process? Like, I ask deep questions because I know what needs to happen. And so sometimes I have lenders that realize that they have like underestimated like this broker.
Here's a question for you, Jackie. I mean, ETA in the whole searcher community has exploded over the last couple of years. I mean, it's gotten huge, and you are entrenched in it. You've given me a lot of pointers on how to get more involved, how to work with new business owners that are out there searching in this whole entire community. So you've got a really good hand on the pulse. What are you seeing? I mean, is there any signs of this slowing down, or is it just going to get more and more rapid? And what's your outlook for all of ETA?
Yeah, that's a great question. So ETA is going to continue to expand. And for those who don't know what ETA is, it's Entrepreneurship Through Acquisition. And what that means is you're buying a company and then you're using your entrepreneurial skills to get in there and fix it up and improve it, right? That's what you do as an entrepreneur. You take something and you make it better and you put your own spin on it. You don't have to start something completely from scratch. Like, you can have a vehicle and then design the outside however you want, but you didn't make every engine component in that vehicle. And so that's what people are doing. Is ETA going to continue to explode? Yes. Why? There's not enough investment banking jobs. People are looking for, high net worth jobs and they're not finding them. The issue is, I don't know. While I believe anybody can own a business, it doesn't mean anybody should. And so you have these people who want to buy a business, and you have to have an insane amount of confidence to do this. And I know that when I was 26 and I started Crown Atlantic, people thought I was crazy. What do I know? I'd maybe only sold maybe 20 businesses or 30 businesses probably at that time, maybe more, maybe as many as 50, but not that many, right, in the scheme of things. And, here I was just going out on my own and doing it with my own money. I didn't get an SBA loan. It was completely bootstrapped. I honestly wasn't even sure if I, could have gotten a loan, although I think now I could have. But there's no other path other than entrepreneurship for people to get freedom of time. And if you value time and you value your own time, then you need to be in some sort of career path that allows you some level of freedom. If you want to pick up your kids at 3, you can't work at a normal job and be like, I'm just going to leave for a half hour and I'll be back in a little bit and I'll have my kid with me, but they'll be sitting quietly doing their homework. Now, I did have a seller that had an employee like that because he loved this employee and he's like, whatever you, and the kid was like the mascot at the office. And the kid every day, like she'd leave and go pick up the kid and bring him back to the office and he'd do his homework and have snacks. And like, that's just what it was. But he really valued his staff and he made that happen. So if you want freedom of time, then the path of buying a business is going to continue to explode and ETA is going to continue to explode. Will people be able to raise money the same way? I don't think so. In 2016, they made all those changes to the SOPs, and that allowed for a lot more flexibility. And then recently, in June, they changed it back to, as my brother and I say, the way it used to be. So you and I were laughing about that. I'm like, they're like, oh, these SBA changes are terrible. And Lee and I are just laughing. I'm like, no, it's just how it used to be.
20 years.
Yeah. It's still an amazing product. It's still an amazing system that we offer here in the United States of America. Like, it's just incredible that we offer this opportunity. Why? Because the United States knows that they invest in business owners and small business runs America. So
absolutely.
This is what it's about. It's about the American dream, which is still alive and well. And it's about, all of these baby boomers that are going to retire. They say it's 10 trillion in businesses. I don't know if that's accurate. And then 96% of businesses don't have gross sales over $1 million. And I would say the majority of the businesses that you work with have gross sales over $1 million. So we're working with a microscopic slice of a big pie, but it's a very small pie. And then some of those businesses are not going to be in the shape to transition. So I think it's a really interesting time. It's an exciting time. It's always been a seller's market. Since 1998, when I started selling companies, it's always been a seller's market. It will always be a seller's market. There will never be more sellers to buyers in the business realm. And that's what makes it so competitive and why buyers have to be on their A game and be organized. And when I'm vetting buyers to you, like, I don't send you some buyer that doesn't know what's going on. Like, I make sure the buyer is prepared. I'm not going to send them to a lender if they have no clue on what things should look like in a process. And that's tricky. So buyers are going to need to get more educated because they are in a competition with a lot of other buyers.
Oh, yeah. They're going to have to stand out from the pack. They're going to have to find that it factor that they have. And one of my biggest takeaways that I always try to give new searchers that are out there is try to buy a business in an industry that you have experience in. It doesn't have to be direct ownership experience, but something that something that you're familiar with, something that you can transfer from your past experience into this new business, because you don't want to be a fish out of water day one jumping into a business and you have a hard time swimming, right? You want to make sure that you have some type of a decent framework going into that business. Because I know I've seen some searchers and some business buyers get a little bit desperate because it is so competitive out there. It is so competitive that they're just throwing LOIs at businesses they have no business throwing LOIs at. So I get it, Jackie. That's some great advice. Know what you're getting into and get a business that makes sense. And be a strong buyer. Be someone that stands out.
Tell you right now, if I'm going to buy a business, I'm going through Jackie and Kroge. No, for a
That's
fact.
I
right.
appreciate it. Thank you,
Because
Emily.
I love Jackie's energy. I think she's wonderful. And you're
Oh,
smart.
Jackie's fantastic. Yeah.
Thank
You're
you.
a smart
Yeah.
woman, and I love that. So thank you for
Yeah.
being on our episode. That was awesome. How about some quick parting advice for BDOs working with business brokers? Just anything you got, because I feel like whatever rolls off your tongue is going to be wonderful.
I like it.
Well, okay. Gosh, I better I'm pulling out as much good advice as I can. Okay. I think for BDOs, the way to build relationships with business brokers, everybody comes out and says, hey, we can do a 7A loan, or hey, we can do this. Every bank has a real buy box of what they like. Like there are deals that they really like. And I think that they want to talk to brokers like, hey, this is how we solve problems. And this is what we do to solve problems. This is one of my favorite things about Ryan Kroge is he knows how to solve problems and he will get in there and roll up his sleeves. And I don't know if it's because he's a longtime husband and father of 4 girls, which God bless him. My dad had 4 kids, not easy, he will problem solve. And so if you can show brokers that you will problem solve and support them and work with them, you're in the trenches, that's how you'll get loyalty. That's how you'll get people to help. I spoke with Alan and Alan's great and Jared's great, but they know oh yeah, she works with Kroge. Right. And it's just so funny. And maybe it's because we've worked on so many deals, but brokers want certainty to close. They want that with the buyer. They want that with the lender. And so if they don't feel that the lender has the tenacity to help get the deal across, because Lee's my brother and my business partner. Lee and I will call Ryan and say, hey, we are having a problem. Here's what it is. And Ryan will then kind of try and sort it out on his end because it's a team approach. And so
Absolutely.
I think BDOs do not think about the broker as a customer. And I am a customer. And Ryan knows I'm a customer.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But a lot of times the BDOs are like, oh, yeah, that's just some broker. Right now, after all this time and this flywheel that I've created and hundreds of deals, yeah, I have lenders calling me. But at first, they would ignore me. And I remembered that. They wouldn't talk to me. They wouldn't give me the time of day. And I had good stuff, but they're like, yeah, she just doesn't really know, she doesn't know what she's doing. But there was a lender, my first SBA deal in 2000. There was a lender who was always really nice to me. He happened to be from New York. Anyway, he was really nice. He was in Florida, but he was a New Yorker transplant. And I told him that I had this business and I had these people and I really wanted to get the deal done. And he really helped. And there were some unsavory things about that deal. Interest rate was 13% for that deal. And, again, this is 2000, so interest rates were a little higher, but to do this deal, they made the interest a little bit more to make it work. And I had money down and those people got an amazing business. They still own it to this day. And I've sold them 3 other companies. They have an empire now. They barely had enough money to kind of just kind of piece it together to get that deal. And they are wealthy. They are truly wealthy. And I didn't know this for a long time. The husband of the business who, the kid's dad, and the kids are now we're friends because we're, all peers, but he died the same year my dad died. And we found that out and we, this is in 2021. So we started talking about apparently their dad always would say a prayer for me because they were so grateful that I worked with them on that deal. They moved to America and they were US citizens just by this, but they did not speak English. It was crazy how it all worked. And so I helped them and nobody else would. And so I still have that relationship and I feel really lucky to be involved in that. So I think if BDOs have long-term relationship approaches to their community, they will go much further in their career.
I love that. I absolutely love that, Jackie. And I love the fact that it doesn't matter if the deal's too big, if it's too small, if it's something you believe in, make it happen. I mean, everyone wants to act like water, take the path of least resistance. What's the quickest, easiest way so I can get in and out of this transaction? And that's not what makes a name for yourself. And that's not what makes a reputation for you in your community. You have to take the hard deals. You have to look at the ones that are difficult because you're helping the community out. You're making a name for yourself, and you're doing so by going above and beyond what every other BDO is not doing. Yeah, I love it. That's some great parting advice, Jackie.
All right, Jackie, thank you so much for being on the episode. Kroge, as always.
Yes, thank you so much.
Everybody, don't forget to like, subscribe, and send your suggestions to the BDO Show at artofsba.com, and we will see you next time.